deep and rich background as a tribal member and a traditional healer. Can you introduce yourself in the native way and share more with our listeners about your background and experience as a healer?
Good morning, Kuhuaha Na'awi Taesa, Kumbakita Kristala. I say good morning to you. Welcome, friends. My name is Kristala. My father is a member of the Caddo Nation of Oklahoma, and my mother is full-blooded Sicilian. So on my father's side, we're Peoria Way, Native American Church, and on my mother's side, cannabis has been a Mediterranean medicine for thousands of years. So my grandma on that side was a plant doctor, and so I've kind of been inundated with traditions on two different sides of my family.
Wow, that's incredible. You mentioned that on the Mediterranean side that you were introduced to cannabis and that was part of the doctoring. I know I've heard you say before that cannabis doctors the spirit. Can you explain to us why you began using cannabis as part of your healing ceremonies and the private sessions that you actually do to help people heal and get through traumas and such?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you. Well, the way we see it is that, Creator made a plant for everything that we need. Some plants are for helping our stomach. Some plants are for helping our bones heal, and some plants are for helping our spirit. And cannabis is one of those plants that doctors our spirit. So I've been through many things myself, too many things, I would say. And I would definitely unequivocally say that cannabis has saved my life many times. I've been through my own health issues, a few of which I'll mention, I guess. 9 concussions, broken neck, wrist, elbow, knees, shoulders. My husband passed away when he was 38, and I have 6 children that are not in this, that are in the spirit world. So many, many things that I've had help from cannabis. When you're dealing with the death of a child or the death of your spouse, sometimes you just kind of wish you were with them. And so in the same way that cannabis doctors PTSD and helps our veterans not commit suicide, I think it can help anybody who is considering that they'd rather be on the other side. Very much so. I think it not only does it doctor the symptoms, but it doctors your spirit. So over time, it heals those so they're not as bothersome to you.
Kristala, I know you as, and you are known as a cannabis curandera. I know what that means because I'm from New Mexico, but a lot of our listeners will not know what that means. Can you explain what a curandera is and what you do as a cannabis curandera?
Well, one thing that curanderas do is we use plant medicines and prayers and traditional ways of doctoring. They're pretty normal in the Native community. I don't really feel like, what I do is unusual inside the Native community, but in the outside community, in the mainstream community, people kind of see it as esoteric. So, for example, it's more of a body, mind, spirit healing modality where I'll give you an example. If somebody gets into a car wreck and breaks their leg, the hospital sets the bone, but they still need to have their spirit doctored from the trauma, which is largely what PTSD is, trauma to the spirit, in our opinion. I've been making cannabis remedies for 25 years, individually for individual patients, depending upon what they needed. And sometimes it's, I think people that are suffering from PTSD don't need a kind of a harsh massage. They need something a little bit more soothing and a little bit more take them to another place so that they can open up and talk about what's bothering them. I have some patients that come here and they're what I would say over smoking through an ordeal. For example, a recent patient I had a 10-year-old son that passed away, and he was just smoking too much, I felt. So my prescription to him was no more than 3 hits, and then let the medicine work on you. Don't take yourself too far over to the other side where, any medicine is that way. There's a way. You have to learn how it works for you. And, so that was one of my prescriptions for him was, you're over smoking right now because of your pain, but just bring it down a little bit, no more than 3 hits.
What other prep is smoking? Obviously, is that potions are typical of something that you use as a cunandetta?
I typically infuse cannabis into oils and use it topically. I use the charcoal. I keep my stems and sticks. I smudge my home with. I use every little bit of it that I can, and in ways. So I save all my little charcoal in a little container. It takes a while to save it up, but I like to use that in poultices and, topically, just for a number of things. Even for mosquito bites, cannabis ashes are very good for mosquito bites.
And I know the Native Americans are so spiritual. Is there sort of a spiritual aspect that you use in conjunction with the cannabis, whatever form it's being used in?
Well, I do, because I feel like one thing I try to help my patients with is just reconnecting with the spirit of the plant. In our tradition, when you put the fire to the plant, that's how you release the spirit of the plant, and that's why we bless ourselves with the smoke, because that's actually the spirit coming out of the plant that you see. So we bless ourselves with that, and I try to help people take a little time and be quiet with it. In my early activist days when I was organizing the Million Marijuana Marches back in early 2000s with NORML and Cures Not Wars, I had a gentleman ask me, he came up to me and he said, well, I smoked marijuana once and it really never did much for me. And so I just said, well, did you ask it to? I mean, in our way, you ask the plant to help you, you approach it humbly when you're gathering it, when you're using it, all along the way. My grandma was like that. I would watch her with her plants and, just loving on them, singing to them. It seemed like they would grow to any size she asked them to. So, we have a way of approaching medicine humbly, and asking for its help is one of the things that we do. So I try to help people, go spend some time on the side of the mountain, just you and your spliff, bless yourself, make a prayer, sit and be quiet with it, and then see what you hear.
That's beautiful. And how do others, non-Native Americans, how do they reach out to find you to receive the beautiful service that you provide and the blessings?
People, I do have my, I'll just back up for 1 second and talk about Matamota for a minute. I've been working also in Indian country, running a nonprofit, doing a lot of work for a long time. I'm a tribal member, Caddo Nation of Oklahoma. And of course, in Indian country, if people think you smoke weed, you are not ever going to get a contract with a tribe ever. So I had to hide that, like many people do, excuse me, in their workplace. And so I created initially as a way for me to have a Facebook page where I could teach the history and the beauty of this plant without having the repercussions of backlash, if you will. So that's kind of how Matamota came to be. And now I forgot what you asked me.
Well, that's okay. We're about up to our first break.
Okay.
And we have the beautiful cannabis nurse, Heather. This is good news. And we have the amazing Christella Allen, also known as Matamota, who we will be back with in just a few moments after we hear a word from our sponsors.
Good News with Nurse Heather will return, but first, let's show some love to our sponsors.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! It's temperature temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
Ganjapreneur.com, your guide to the cannabis business world. Ganjapreneur.com is a comprehensive resource for cannabis professionals and entrepreneurs. Download the Ganjapreneur app on your smartphone or tablet to catch up on cannabis industry news, scroll through our daily job listings, and learn about successful cannabis companies, executives, and investors. Ganjapreneur.com, helping Ganjapreneurs grow.
InternetMarketingNinjas.com is the online dojo of the highly trained and skilled Internet Marketing Ninjas. Disavow documents, reconsideration requests, panda and penguin penalties. Let our superior SEO ninjas confront all of your link-related issues. The Internet Marketing Ninjas are equipped to master any marketing exercise, content creation, authorship, link building, PPC, and more. Plus, build more buzz for your brand with our social media marketing strategies. Discover all that the Internet Marketing Ninjas can do for you. Visit the online dojo now at InternetMarketingNinjas.com.
Nurse Heather is back to spread some more good news, only on CannabisRadio.com.
We're back, beautiful listeners, with good news with Cannabis Nurse Heather and our beautiful guest today, Cristala Allen, who is a cannabis Cunandera. And she is also known as Madam Mota. Just before the break, she was beginning to tell our beautiful listeners about Madam Mota. I'll turn it over to her first to finish that story.
Well, what I was saying was, how Madam Mota kind of came to be. And, it is a little bit of a silly name that makes people laugh, which is one thing I was kind of going for. I've had some criticism from people saying, we're trying to lean towards science, and not really. First of all, I wanted to have fun with it. I've been working in very serious poverty-stricken communities for a long time. That can get a little depressing sometimes. And I think that healing, when you're healing, especially from serious illnesses such as cancer and Crohn's and epilepsy, that it can be a little depressing sometimes. So I think laughter is good medicine. People almost always laugh when they hear Madam Mota. That's a reaction I like to see from them, because we just need a little bit more of that. And so I really practice integrated medicine. I believe in some conventional medicine, and I believe in traditional medicine, which we have really different definitions for that in Indian country. Conventional medicine is more of the Western modalities, and traditional medicine is the older modalities. So we call the older medicine traditional and the newer medicine conventional.
Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that. And, Cristala, I also wanted to thank you you were speaking of sitting on a hilltop with your joint and smoking it and listening to the medicine. And you had actually given me what is it called? Is it a spirit stick? Or you gave me some kind of a ceremonial piece that I've used, and it is true that when you sit quietly, and you told me this is not for sharing with friends, this is for you when you need to be at one with the medicine. And so I wanted to thank you for giving me that gift and that awareness to sit and listen to the medicine.
Oh, thank you so much. I created those, I call them ritual roaches. And they're usually something I make for my clients. So I feel like what I do is a blend between native values regarding traditional medicine and then some of the older ways in the Mediterranean, because my grandma used to doctor people with cannabis. This medicine in Sicily, at least, has been used to treat people for anger and sadness. It's an anger and sadness medicine, which I'm sure makes sense to a lot of people that are hearing that. because it doctors those two things so well. And actually, in Mediterranean way, also consider this plant to be feminine, mostly because it has a softening quality. Not that it makes everyone feminine, but that it has a woman-like softening quality to it, a comforting quality to it. So